A very warm welcome to the second issue of The Missing Link. The global financial system is undergoing a massive change. In order to understand this change, a series of issues need to be understood very carefully, as all these issues are very closely interconnected with each other and all of them become probable questions for the UPSC exam. In this discussion on the petrodollar, we shall be analyzing the changing oil trade dynamics. We will analyze the series of events that unfolded when USA imposed sanctions on Russia. In this entire changing scenario, we will analyze the emerging role of BRICS. We will see what impact is the soon to be launched BRICS currency going to have. We will see why countries across the world are rushing to join BRICS. In this entire scenario, we will also very closely understand why countries are slowly replacing US dollar with gold as part of their foreign exchange reserves. And we will also try to answer this question, that will US dollar cease to play its role as the world's reserve currency? Join me for the discussion on this issue in the second issue of The Missing Link. In order to understand this, first let's understand how did USA fix the price of US dollar till 1971. Like every country, till 1971, USA followed the gold standard. What was the gold standard? For example, there is a fixed amount of gold and we see what is the amount of currency required to purchase that fixed amount of gold. Now this ratio actually gave you the price of your currency. This was called the gold standard. USA stopped following the gold standard in 1971. It started exploring other options and it came to a conclusion in 1974. In 1974, USA entered into a very critical agreement with Saudi Arabia, and the agreement was that whatever oil will be exported by Saudi Arabia can only be purchased in US dollar. This ensured a steady demand for the US dollar. What did Saudi Arabia get in return? US military aid and assistance. This agreement came to be known as the petrodollar. Very soon in 1980s and 1990s, almost every OPEC country followed similar agreements with USA. This ensured that there was a very heavy, steady demand for the US dollar. This ensured a very high price for the US dollar as well. Now, when we entered the year 2000s, certain series of events started taking place, which started changing all of this dynamic. The first major change was the steady growth of the economy of China. The second one was alternate sources of fuel started being discovered and the technology to use them was being growing rapidly. Therefore, the demand on crude oil can be said to have been fluctuating. The third most important thing was certain countries in this grouping wanted to export their oil in currencies besides the US dollar. Now, this intention on the part of such certain countries did lead to certain geopolitical tension between those countries and USA for obvious reasons. So the bottom line was that some friction started developing between the oil trade and the link with US dollar. The bottom line is the agreement that began between Saudi Arabia and USA in 1974 ended in June 2024. This 50-year agreement ended in 2024 June. Saudi Arabia can now trade its own oil reserves in any currency it wants. So basically the demand for US dollar has slowly started to decline. Let's see what all factors had actually started building up by this time. By June 2024, certain series of events had also started taking place. Before I draw your attention to that, it is very important for me to explain one point over here. Since the demand for US dollar was created, international transactions were taking place in US dollar. All of those transactions were managed by a system known as SWIFT, which is primarily overseen by the USA itself. Now, if countries wanted to explore alternate payments not using US dollar, they needed to move to certain other platforms as well, which is why once this agreement ended in June 2024, Saudi Arabia joined the M-Bridge platform, which is basically a multi-central bank digital currency platform. Around 2022, a series of events took place. It is not just this digital currencies. We saw the growth of cryptocurrency. Why all of this started taking place around this time? It is very crucial to understand. In 2022, the Russia-Ukraine conflict began. And when that conflict began, USA actually removed Russia from the SWIFT network. Therefore, USA was in a very dire situation. Russia was in a very dire situation. It could not use its funds, which is why countries across the world started exploring alternate digital currencies. Almost 98% of the countries in the world as of today are experimenting with certain digital currency in some form or the other. And in order to run those currencies, they have set up different online transaction platforms, right? For example, one is M-Bridge. We'll talk about all of that right now. Before I come to those platforms, to manage international transactions besides SWIFT, it becomes very important to understand how these cryptocurrencies, how all of this digital currency is actually managed. When you talk about digital currency, particularly you can say taking place even in India, China, and 90%, 98% of the countries are practicing some form of digital currency right now in a, you can say, experimental basis. That is called a pilot project. These digital currencies are called central bank digital currencies, CBDC. Now, what is the difference between a regular currency and a digital currency? Let me tell you what is the actual name of the regular currency that we use. We are all familiar with this rupee 500 note. Now, this currency is actually called the fiat money. Fiat is a Latin term which means issued by someone in authority. Now, all of the currency, the fiat money, is guaranteed by the central government. It is not backed by something called as gold or silver. Therefore, it is not backed by the gold standard to ensure that this central government can manage the value of the currency itself. The value of the fiat money and the value of the digital currency is exactly the same. So the e-rupee and the fiat money has the exact same value. In order to practice transactions based on the e-currency, you need certain platform, and the technology that is used to ensure secure transactions is called blockchain technology. What is blockchain technology? Blockchain technology ensures that the transaction that is conducted is in a very secure and transparent manner. It is virtually impossible to tamper with that transaction, and a permanent record is created. It is basically a ledger that is maintained, that is visible to all the participants, and you cannot make any change into it. So it ensures very transparent and secure transactions. All of this technology has been under, you can say, research, and cryptocurrencies are running on blockchain. Every country is managing their own e-currency on blockchain technology. Definitely, the country's digital currency is managed by the country itself, right? Therefore, its price is fixed. All of this began in 2022. In India, we launched our pilot projects in late December, or rather in late 2022. Sanctions on Russia happened in 2022. Saudi Arabia entered into, or rather did not renew its agreement in 2024 and joined another online platform, countries across the world are rushing towards alternate payment systems. What is it boiling down to? Reduced dependency on the US dollar, reduced dependency on the SWIFT platform. Why? When USA imposed sanctions on Russia, the world got a very clear message that dependence upon a US based platform cannot be ensured. Therefore, it became very crucial for countries across the world to look for alternatives, which brings us to the main issue. The countries that I have been referring to are part of the biggest grouping. Why it is called the biggest grouping right now, I'll come to that as well. That is called BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. In the upcoming BRICS summit that is going to be conducted in Russia in the third week of October, it is expected that the BRICS nations are going to launch their own digital currency, the BRICS currency, and they are also going to launch the BRICS Bridge multi-sided payment platform. All of this is basically linked with the changing, evolving dynamics. This is called de-dollarization. Removing dependency on the US dollar. Removing dependency on US, you can say, backed transaction systems as well. This is not only going to help countries save a lot of money in all of the exchange rate dynamics as well, but it is also going to ensure them their own strength. Now, in this scenario, something becomes very important. Given this major change that is taking place, no wonder, it is not a surprise that 34 countries, more than 34 countries, have expressed a desire to actually join the BRICS grouping. As of today, the BRICS Plus means the countries besides Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa that are part of this grouping. They account for approximately 37% of the global GDP, making it the biggest economical grouping and surpassing the G7's total GDP, which is basically 30%. Now you can see the significance of the emerging BRICS, and now the BRICS Plus grouping accounts for over 40% of the global crude oil production and exports as well, making the BRICS grouping one of the most powerful and significant in the world right now. Now, in this changing dynamic, it becomes very important that India's role should be understood, because India has good ties both with the BRICS countries and with the Western nations. Therefore, India is going to play a very crucial role as a bridge to make this smooth transaction, or rather the smooth transition. All of this that we have understood till now is reducing the demand for US dollar. That is what is happening right now. Countries across the world are slowly, you can say, reducing the dependency on, you can say, US dollar. And the biggest challenge for USA right now is the debt that it has. What is debt? The money owed by USA. Now the thing is, there is something called the debt to GDP ratio. What is that debt to GDP ratio? Debt means the amount of money owed by a country. The amount of money that USA has to repay amounts to $35 trillion. USA has to repay $35 trillion. And when you see the ratio of this debt to its GDP, that comes out to be 121%. Therefore, USA owes more money than it is producing as of today. And the surprising fact is, USA is adding almost $1 trillion per 100 days into its debt. It is adding $1 trillion into its debt every 100 days. It is becoming a huge challenge for the USA to manage this right now. And this is going to further deteriorate the dollar status as the world's reserve currency. Which is why it is not a surprise that countries across the world are slowly replacing their foreign exchange reserves by, you can say, they're adding gold into their foreign exchange reserves, and replacing it with US dollars. It is not a surprise that in the recent few months, we have seen record purchase of, you can say, gold by different countries to add them to their foreign exchange reserves, which is why the price of gold is also skyrocketing. Now, in this entire situation, we need to analyze one more thing. The entire debate till here was focusing on how the price of US dollar is bound to fall. But the thing is, USA must have some confidence in something, that as to why it is practicing all of this. Now the thing is, USA has given loans to almost every country, and those loans amount to more than $13 trillion. All of these loans need to be repaid back to USA in US dollars itself. Therefore, this repayment of loans to USA, which is going to be in US dollars, somehow maintains a price, you can say, a demand for US dollar. Therefore, when we ask this question, that will USA lose its role as the global reserve currency, the downward trend has already begun. But the thing is, this repayment of loan issue can provide some cushion for USA. Now, all of this becomes very important to be understood in an interconnected way. And all of this becomes very important as all of these issues separately need to be analyzed very critically, because they can be asked as questions in the pre-exam as well. I have added all of this discussion and many other points in detail in the document attached with this issue, and you can download that document from the Telegram channel. I have added a link in the description box on this video. That is all for this issue on the missing link. Stay tuned for further issues.